In January 1917, World War I entered its third year. So far, it had produced 16 million casualties. H.G. Wells, writing for the Post, said the armies would now welcome any peace that did not definitely admit defeat, which is what President Wilson proposed. The time had come, he said, for peace without victory. Some Americans weren't so enthusiastic to see the war's end. The U.S. was getting rich from loaning money and selling food and material to the Allies. In New York, the restaurants, theaters, and hotels were filled to capacity as men and women came to spend their new wealth. American industry was expanding, particularly the auto industry. The Post was filled with ads for automobiles that are now barely remembered. America was still a nation of small towns in that year, but even remote country villages had at least one movie theater, where audiences this month were watching Charlie Chaplin in Easy Street. In American parlors, Victrolas were playing popular tunes sung by John McCormick and Billy Murray. But a revolution was coming to the music industry. This month, a band from New Orleans started performing in New York. For many, this was their introduction to the new music called jazz. And in that spring, the original Dixieland Jazz Band became the first jazz group to make a record. There were other signs of change. In Washington, suffragettes calling themselves the Silent Sentinels started daily demonstrations before the White House, which they would continue for the next 2 years. Their banners challenged President Wilson to support an amendment for women's suffrage. And though the U.S. had kept out of the European War, it had already sent troops into another country. After the Mexican revolutionary leader Pancho Villa raided the town of Columbus, New Mexico, the U.S. sent a punitive expedition across the border to capture him. Originally, the U.S. had considered Villa a potential ally and sent General Pershing to meet him. Now Pershing returned with orders to capture him. He led a force that included virtually every unit of the tiny American army, 10,000 men in all, into the deserts of northern Mexico. Not only did he not capture Villa, he never even came into contact with him. This month, the U.S. finally ordered Pershing to return home with his men. Meanwhile, events in Europe were drawing America closer to the World War. On the 16th, British agents intercepted a coded message from the German government to Mexico. It offered to restore Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona to that nation if it would become Germany's ally in a war against America. And a little over a week after Wilson appealed for a peaceful resolution of the war, Germany resumed unrestricted submarine warfare. German U-boat commanders were ordered to sink any American ships heading toward England. Just 65 days later, America declared war on Germany. This video is brought to you by the Saturday Evening Post Digital Archives. Saturday Evening Post members can explore our 200-year-old archive for only $15 a year. Subscribe today.